Hi, and welcome to another episode of SWITCHCast, a podcast delving into the world of film brought to you by the team at Switch. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Charlie David Page.
I'm Jess Fenton.
I'm Daniel Lamon.
And I'm Brent Davidson.
It's Thursday, the 4th of January 2018. Happy New Year, everybody.
Woo! Happy New Year.
On this week's show, we take a look at A24, the film distribution company that's revolutionizing the way Hollywood works.
We also discuss Karen Gillan's push for an all-female cast for a Marvel film.
And as always, all our reviews and giveaways.
Let's get straight into it with All the Money in the World, which was ambitiously reshot in just 9 days to remove any trace of Kevin Spacey. Jess went to check it out, so did Ridley Scott do a decent job?
Yes, Charlie, all involved did a decent job. While props should be made for the impressive rush job they did on the reshoots, the same can't be said for the rest of the film. To a degree. In Rome 1973, Paul Getty, the 16-year-old grandson of the richest man in the world, J. Paul Getty, played by Christopher Plummer, is kidnapped. Believing this to be a hoax staged by the teenager, as he had joked in the past, no real weight is given to the event, and Getty Sr. refuses to pay the $17 million ransom. Paul's poor mother Gail, the wonderful Michelle Williams, is on her own, unable to pay the demands when former CIA spook Fletcher Chase, that's Mark Wahlberg, steps in on behalf of Getty to get to the bottom of this. The kidnapping is proven to be the real deal, and Paul suffers months in captivity and the eventual loss of an ear, while his notoriously tight and prick of a grandfather continues to refuse to pony up the cash for his release.
I didn't hire an ex-CIA officer just to pay people off. I hired you to do things that other people can't or won't do.
We have to be willing to walk away.
He's my son. I can't walk away.
I don't think this is about money. It's about power.
Business.
Terror.
Family.
Tell him I'm coming.
So Christopher Plummer is in, Kevin Spacey is out. People of the internet, get over it. Honestly, they're two incredible actors, and I don't think it affected the film that much. On the upside, due to the possible time constraints or perhaps a negative reaction to the first trailer, Plummer does not sport a mass of prosthetics in order to aesthetically fit the role. Hooray! As for the film itself, it lacks serious grit and also, accuracy. The whole time I felt the film lacked the hands of a different director, like, say, David Fincher, someone who wouldn't have been afraid to show the real dark and dirty side of this horrible incident and the rich and fucked at the center of it all. All the Money in the World looks good, sounds good, and is acted good, but it could have and should have been so much more. Decent, but ultimately forgettable. 3 stars.
I kind of disagree. I really liked it. I was engaged. I was totally with it the whole time. I love Ridley Scott's period thrillers, and this one, I really, really, really enjoyed it. And you're right, Michelle Williams is wonderful in it. With all the attention that's been put on Christopher Plummer's performance, it's like he really is very much a secondary role in the film, and the lead of the film is really Michelle Williams.
Yeah.
And it's great watching her as Gail having to navigate, because she's the ex-wife of J. Paul Getty's son, so she's married into the Getty family, but she's not a member of the Getty family, which is something he continuously points out to her. But it's great seeing her having to navigate the machinations of this ridiculous family and this ridiculous patriarch in order to do what she needs to do to save her son. Yeah, as much as I could see that there were definitely historical inaccuracies and there was a few dramatizations in order to make the film work, I still really, really enjoyed seeing the twists and turns that it would take. And as much as, I would happily see a director like Fincher tackle the phone book, but I actually think it was very well suited to Ridley Scott. Yeah, I had a really great time. I really liked it.
I certainly didn't hate it. I just didn't think it was as good as it could have been. But the funny thing is, like I said, in the hands of another director, we will actually get to see it in the hands of another director, because this story is going to be released this year as a TV series directed by a couple of directors, one being Danny Boyle and written by Simon Beaufoy.
Yeah.
So we will get to see a different spin on it and see whether, Christopher Plummer, who will be played by Donald Sutherland in the TV series, did a good job, or whether Ridley Scott did a good job. And it's one of those things that Hollywood tends to do sometimes, the same story twice.
I think it'll benefit both because, there's such a baroque, grand, operatic quality to the way Ridley Scott directs film, while directors like Danny Boyle, who I imagine will be kind of setting the style for the miniseries, has such an immediacy and a drive and a snap. So I think it will work really nicely. And it also will be nice in the same way that it's been interesting seeing different actors portray Winston Churchill over the past 12 months. It'll be really interesting to see how Christopher Plummer and Donald Sutherland's performances differ. Also, I mean, as much as all of the hoo-ha that's been made about the role placement of Kevin Spacey and Christopher Plummer stepping in, I thought Christopher Plummer was brilliant.
Yeah,
and I actually can't imagine the film with anybody else. He just fits so beautifully within the style of the film. He's got this kind of evil, wicked smile. You believe this is a man who is so utterly selfish, but incredibly manipulative, but that he's able to do that because there's a kind of pleasantness to him. I felt a real sense of danger from him. The most forgettable thing about this film was Mark Wahlberg, who thankfully just disappears into the background. But yeah, it will be really cool to see the comparison between this and the miniseries coming out.
Jess, can I ask a bit about some of the inaccuracies that you were talking about?
Oh, okay. So one of them is Paul, the kidnapped victim. His father, while yes, in reality, he was a drug addict, he was actually a very successful, very rich philanthropist who was actually knighted or had an honorary knighthood at one stage, but when he became a British citizen, it was sort of enacted. They turn him into this, like, there's a scene in the film where he gets wheeled in a wheelchair and he looks like he hasn't slept in about 6 months and he's got long hair and he can't string a sentence together and he can't move. It's like, I just thought that was so insulting to this person who actually did a great deal to this world and the Getty Museum and the art culture and stuff that he donated to. Plus the scene in which Paul is finally sort of released and collected in this like little Italian town where he's running away from them. You've got Mark Wahlberg and Michelle Williams sort of following him through these dark alleyways and trying to avoid these mobs. I don't know, it was very bizarre. And then this happy ending that they gave this whole film. J. Paul Getty's death very quickly after Paul's release, when it was not.
And that's actually the biggest inaccuracy in the
film. That was
film,
the biggest one.
Because the way that plays out, you're like, it's too convenient.
Gail becomes the sort of matriarch of this whole company, which did not happen at all. And I found the biggest insult was to Paul himself. This is a guy that was absolutely and utterly traumatized by this kidnapping. His life was ruined in every possible way as a result of it. And at the end, they're kind of like, oh, he's back into the loving arms of his mother and everything's going to be okay. And then look, now you're inheriting all these billions of dollars. Like, no, at all. No.
I agree. It did feel like it was starting to kind of do this thing where it seemed all a little bit too convenient.
So
it was kind of like, narrative storylines coming together very nicely. But there was something about the very last shot of the film. It had a bit of a sting to it. I can't quite interpret it. I need to see it again. But there's something about the last moment in the film between Gail and the kind of presence of J. Paul Getty that, left me feeling like this film has a little bit more bite or spite to it at the very end.
For those of you at home who don't know, Daniel actually gets held on to by the last second of a film constantly.
It's a good ending. Yes.
That last minute can, change a film. It's why he doesn't like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, because of the last shot.
I've never seen League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Are you kidding me?
Of course I'm not. I've got fucking taste.
Anyway, you can find my full review at maketheswitch.com.au, and All the Money in the World is in cinemas now.
Well, that's it, guys. It's just the one new film out today, but of course you can still catch all the Boxing Day films in cinemas, and all of our reviews are available on the website now. All right, let's check out the upcoming films in our trailer wrap. Here's Ocean's 8.
In 3.5 weeks, the Met will be hosting its annual ball. And we are going to rob it. Not the ball itself.
On the neck of Daphne Kluger.
Valued at over $100 million.
$150 million, actually.
Revenge. It's a twofer.
Do not run a job in a job.
As a film, I'm excited, and as a Sandra Bullock super fan, I am uber excited. But based on this trailer, I didn't laugh once. I don't even think I smiled. I just kind of watched it very perfunctorily, if that's a word, and just sort of went, oh yeah, that's kind of cool.
It feels very Tinder trailer-ish to me. Like, it doesn't really give away much of what the film actually is.
I I can assure you, as a gay man, I was gasping every 3 seconds, mostly just because of all the goddesses that were appearing in this film. And I think that kind of almost is the point. It's like, I don't care if the story's not good. I just want to watch these kick-ass women do shit for 2 hours. That's all. Yeah.
Let's be honest. If they don't have a scene that starts with Shania Twain, "Let's go, girls," and then plays the entirety of "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" while they're doing something, I'm gonna get up and walk out. Can you imagine that though? Let's go, girls.
Plus, I mean, also the top of the fact that it's like this ridiculous cast of women.
Yeah, you could have never told me you'd ever get Sandra Bullock and Kate Blanchett in the same
and
movie.
Helena Bonham Carter and Anne Hathaway and Rihanna.
Exactly.
And Sarah Paulson. But on top of that, they're doing a robbery at the Met Gala. Like, that is a gay fantasy. It's literally like someone wrote gay fan fiction, a gay man's fan fiction.
It's a type of gay fantasy.
Well, yes. Gay man's fan fiction about their favorite, like, goddesses doing the most ridiculous thing you can imagine at the best place imaginable. It's like fashion, women, robbery. Oh.
Poor James Corden.
But yeah, the trailer's okay. I mean, it has James Corden in it, so, you know, we won't hold James Corden against it.
Well, you can catch Ocean's 8 in Australian cinemas from the 7th of June. Now, let's take a look at Mortal Engines.
What is that? That is London.
I'm going to be honest, this looks like a film that I would have watched like religiously when I was about 12. It's kind of got everything going for it. It's based on a book, apparently, and once again, that's a kind of book that I would probably read.
Yeah, I'm really surprised you haven't read.
Well, I'm going to amend that this afternoon. No, I'm not actually going out of my house today, but, you know, I will amend that eventually and read it.
You've got until Boxing Day, it's okay.
Ooh, Peter Jackson does it again.
What I find interesting is this looks like an absolute epic sci-fi CGI fest. There's no marquee names in this film. There are no names, there are familiar faces, but yeah.
Apart from Hugo Weaving,
there's no big stars that this is hinging on, which I find really interesting.
But I think if you think back to when Peter Jackson kicked off The Lord of the Rings, none of the names in that were like massive billboard names either, were they? They were all kind of...
Well, Kate Blanchett was pretty big.
Not quite yet. Not quite as big as she was about to get.
But also she doesn't actually have an immense part in that film either. So it's, you know, she kind of just dips in and out.
Not pivotal to the plot.
But the point is, Peter Jackson is known for choosing actors for being actors. And I know necessarily in this case, he's not directing, but he would have had a certain say as to who was in the film. He has a way of picking people who are more appropriate for the role rather than just picking someone because they're a name. You know what I mean?
It may also be possible that there's many big names to keep the budget down, that it may be a concession in order to make sure
to pay for the CGI?
To pay for it, yeah, because it seems like it's not a particularly known property. As much as Peter Jackson's name is attached to it, it is being directed by a relatively inexperienced, certainly by comparison, director. Maybe it was just a concession that Jackson made, or the production company made, in order to make the film at all. He's had a lot of trouble starting up these quote-unquote smaller projects that he's producing, so maybe that's what he's doing.
Well, it makes sense.
But it is written by the same screenwriting team who wrote The Lord of the Rings, so Fran Walsh, Phil Wins, and Peter Jackson.
And those guys know how to adapt a book.
Well, do they? I mean, yes, in one instance they very much did. The Lord of the Rings is a great adaptation, but The Lovely Bones is not, and The Hobbit is really not. And also it's a different director, so, you know, it'll be a different vision for it.
But it's cool. They've shot it again in New Zealand, so that's really great. They've used all the Weta production to do all the post-production again, so that's fantastic. So we know it has a fairly solid background with the crew, and we know it has top-notch visual effects artists working on it. So it's got a lot going for it.
It makes a lot of sense that it's a Boxing Day release. It'll be a big one.
Well, Peter Jackson knows nothing else, so yes.
Yeah.
So catch Mortal Engines in Australian cinemas from Boxing Day 2018. And finally, let's take a look at Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. can.
I have a dream, a song to sing.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm pregnant, but I don't know how to do this by myself.
Your mother was the bravest person we ever met.
Look at my baby.
Let me tell you how she did it. All on her own.
Life is short. The world is wide. I want to make some memories. Mamma mia, here I go again. My, how can I resist?
We can't tell anybody else about the baby, okay?
I just told Bill.
Yeah, and I told Harry. I told many, many people.
When they announced this film, I have to admit, I was skeptical. I mean, Mamma Mia is not a great film. It's a lot of fun, but it is not a great film. It's no Hairspray. It's no Chicago. And I thought, there's nowhere else to go. Nothing else to do with this. And then I watched
There are no more songs.
Well, there's no more songs. But then I watched this trailer.
Hello, there are lots more songs.
Well, there's not more...
There are no more good
There are no more good songs.
According to the trailer, there's not many more songs they want to use. But realistically... I mean,
Certainly not that they want to feature prominent.
Mamma Mia is not a property that exists for, great artistic merit. I think it's mostly just as a crowd pleaser. But then Lily James turns up and she's playing a young Meryl Streep, and I get very excited. And then you have Jeremy Irvine turn up, and he's playing a young Pierce Brosnan, and that's also very exciting. And all of the women we love, like Christina Baranski.
Amanda Seyfried.
And Meryl Streep are back.
And Meryl Streep is not back. She's not in the trailer. She dead.
No, she's there. She's definitely there.
She's
definitely there. She's in trailer.
And speaking of people who rhyme with the word there...
Well, that's what I wanted to get to. The thing that finally clinched it for me with this film was Cher is in it. And Cher is playing Meryl Streep's mother. And that is all that needs to be said. It'll be trash. It'll be terrible. But I'm with this. I want a good crowd pleading musical. And at least we know this one isn't trying to be great. So it might be a bit of fun.
Have they got a new director? Because the director for the first film directed the stage show, which is also why the film was so awful.
No, this one has been written and directed by a man. Because the original was directed by a woman.
Heaven forbid a man like ABBA.
A man like ABBA.
He's also the man who wrote the second best exotic Marigold Hotel.
You know that he caters for like 50 plus women.
Oh my goodness.
His feature directing debut was Imagine Me and You, and that was very well received back in 2005. So he must have some...
Excuse me, can I please point out that Cher is only 3 years older than Meryl Streep? How the fuck are they supposed to be mother and daughter?
Well, I was going to say, is it definitely Meryl Streep or is it Pierce? What? Lily James?
No, she's Cher's grandma. No, Cher is the grandma in the past, not in the future. But I bet you if they did a...
Amanda Seyfried says, hi, Grandma, and then Cher rocks up or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, and Lily James
But
playing...
you'll see a scene from the past and you'll see a scene from the future and she'll look exactly the same.
I think that says a lot about Cher for like the last...
Because she could turn back time.
Even if Cher is Lily James's mother, Cher is still 71 and Lily James is like 22 or something. So it wouldn't work then either.
Well, I think what this discussion has shown, this trailer has brought up a lot of pertinent questions, a lot of discussion and interest in Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. And which means
there will be a lot of deep cinematic debate about it over the next few months.
Is Cher an immortal vampire?
This may be the inception of our time in terms of its playing around with time. It seems to be doing it as well as a Christopher Nolan film.
I thought the inception wasn't the inception of our time, but you know.
Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. Blah.
Let's check who's doing the score, because you never know.
Honestly, I can't wait to hear... you know what? Cher's going to release a covers album after this of Cher does ABBA. That'd be great. Can you think of anything gayer?
Do you want to know something even greater?
Yes.
This film is being shot by the cinematographer who consistently works with Wes Anderson.
Ooh.
It's being shot by the Wes Anderson cinematographer, who also works with Paul Feig.
Can you imagine Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, Wes Anderson aesthetic?
My God.
Inception style confusing plot.
Now, I'd actually watch that film.
Different timelines.
Well, you know what? Maybe that's what it's going to be. So we're all excited now. Here we go again.
Oscar for Best Picture goes to Mamma Mia. Here we go again.
Yeah, no, here's how you win an Oscar for Mamma Mia. Here we go again. You make Pierce Brosnan not sing. Instant hit. Instant hit. Make him not sing.
No.
Because he can't sing. And it was a travesty.
If you want Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again to win an Oscar, you get ABBA to write one new song.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you want to see Inception-style Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, it's in Australian cinemas from the 19th of July.
It's a share bois.
God bless you, homosexual brother. God bless you.
And Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again will be hitting stages in 2020.
Stages? Good God, no.
Oh, it's inevitable.
Save us
Come
all.
on.
I want to
Just
see how
embrace
they do the time jumping thing on stage.
And to check out all those trailers and more, head to youtube.com/MakeTheSwitchAU.
After garnering awards attention and critical praise, Greta Gerwig's directorial debut Lady Bird has become the highest-earning film for US film distribution company A24. Casual filmgoers might not know that name by heart, but they've been responsible for some of the best films of the past few years, including The Disaster Artist, The Witch, and Oscar winner Moonlight. So, who is this little company that could, and how have they changed the way Hollywood works?
Oh, Daniel, you're not wrong. These guys are a phenomenal company. They started off as a distribution company, and they've kind of moved into the production side of things. They really grabbed my attention. I saw their logo on the Lobster, and I think that's the first time that I really remember A24.
And that was years after they'd already started to release some pretty big films.
Yeah.
The turning point for them really came very early on when they released Spring Breakers, which was kind of a surprise underground hit back in 2013. And then from there, they were picking up films from directors like Denis Villeneuve and Sofia Coppola and Jonathan Glazer and Kevin Smith. They were starting to really make some great acquisitions early on.
Yeah. The only films of theirs that I haven't liked are the ones I haven't seen.
Yeah.
And that's what's phenomenal. They have kind of curated this collection of films that are just, it's not necessarily that they've aimed for them to be awards favorites or anything like that, but they're these little niche indie films. They're not big films, but they're things which garner a lot of attention. These films, going back through the years, a really impressive list of some of the best films that we've seen probably in the last 5 or 6 years come out in cinemas.
Around the 2015-16 film season, that was really when people started to notice A24 was having a rather extraordinary amount of success. And I remember reading an article about trying to work out what exactly is it that they're doing. Because, they take really great films, but in the hands of other distributors, they probably wouldn't have had the enormous reach or the attention that they deserve or that A24 was able to get them. And what they do is their advertising is really distinct. If you go online and you just kind of Google films from A24, you get the list on the top of Google with all the posters of a lot of the films. And a lot of the posters are fucking extraordinary. And they are the same way that really great blockbusters of the 90s used to do, of having iconic images and iconic layouts of their films. This is a company that made that fantastic poster for The Disaster Artist, the Oh Hi Mark one, that just had that and a picture of James Franco as Tommy Wiseau. And that was attention grabbing. Or the beautiful posters of Witch or Ex Machina or Room. The way that they sell their films is very specific and very targeted. The quality of the films is undeniable, but great films disappear very easily. It's the fact that they know how to sell them to the right audience that I think may be one of the keys to their successes.
One of the guys behind A24, David Ehrlich, says that the whole success of A24 is 3 things. It's substance over size, laser-focused approach to prestige, and indie distribution. And I think you could pretty much say that covers all of the films that they've released. 2017 alone, we had The Florida Project, we had The Killing of a Sacred Deer, A Ghost Story,
Disaster Artist,
Good Times, Moonlight.
Good Time as well, yeah. Moonlight for
Disaster
us, exactly.
Artist, 20th Century Women.
And the win for Moonlight is pretty significant. This is a production company that only started in 2013, in quite modestly. And in 2016, they have a film that wins the Oscar for Best Picture. Like, that's a very quick rise in terms of the amount of attention.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
And I mean, if you look at the potential films that will be nominated for Best Picture in the coming month, you have Lady Bird, The Florida Project, and possibly The Disaster Artist. I mean, their slate already for the past 12 months is guaranteed to also get a lot of awards attention and probably quite a few wins.
And it's important to note too that Lady Bird has become their most successful film to date. So that's still to come out in Australia, but it has been released in the US and a few other territories, and it's topped $28 million in the US at the moment. And for a small indie film, that's a decent sum of money. That's past Moonlight now, which was their previous number one. And this has become an even bigger film. And to me, that means that they are on the way up and people are really starting to pay attention to them.
Lady Bird was also the highest rated film of 2017 on Rotten Tomatoes. It had the highest ranking based on the most amount of reviews. So they've come off an Oscar-winning year with Moonlight,
which was also the number one Rotten Tomatoes film of its year as well.
These guys are sitting so pretty. And if you look at their list of films, they take risks, really magnificent risks with the films that they're making. Like, none of these are ordinary and none of them are cookie cutter or by the book. They're really interesting films, and they're sitting there going, you know what, there's something here, and they're making these risks, and they're paying off, and they're so beautiful.
You're completely right, which I think is really what makes them special within the Hollywood landscape. And also the fact that they back them up, that they support the films. Once they choose them, they support them. If you have a film like Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin, which was the film that came out a few years ago, that was not a film that had any wide appeal. It was not a film that was going to attract a large audience. But it's a masterpiece, and they knew it was a masterpiece, and they backed it up every single step of the way and pushed it. And it ended up being in almost every single critic's top 10 list of that year. And so it's totally the amount of risks they take, which is really, it's like the old days of Miramax and the early days of the 90s independent cinema of taking risks.
It makes me want to watch indie films again. It's exciting stuff.
And I have to admit, when I see that a film is being distributed by A24, I have trust in that. I see that name and I go, okay, I'm willing to take time on that. Like a film like Good Times, which I'm the same as you, Jess. I don't necessarily go for a film that has the name Robert Pattinson on it. But when I saw that Good Times was being distributed by A24, I went, okay, those guys have a good sense for what works as a film. I'm willing to go with it because of that name. That and Annapurna are the only two companies that I would do that with on an independent level, but more so with A24. Also because their posters are fucking kick-ass. Like, they're fucking great. They're just so beautiful. My question was, what would be some of each of your favourite films this company has released?
Florida Project, hands down. Room, and, well, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to say it anyway. Lady Bird.
Oh, you will. When you see Lady Bird, you will definitely want to add
I also love Swiss Army Man too.
Swiss Army Man is a lot of fun. I'm just going to bags both of Yorgos Lanthimos' films, The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Very happy to say both of those make me very, very happy.
The Lobster was an interesting one for them because they invested a lot of money in getting that film out, and I think that they may have been a bit of a flop for them financially. But again, taking risks, they completely backed it up every step of the way. And thankfully, films like Moonlight and Lady Bird mean that they're able to make a nice big push on some of them. What about you, Brent?
I mean, I know that it was a little bit trashy, but I enjoyed The Bling Ring.
Oh, it's really good. Like, it's actually really quite good.
Sophia Coppola, come on.
Fun trash. Moonlight, obviously. I didn't even get to see 20th Century Woman, but I want to. One thing that I do find really interesting about their film list, which I'm staring at on my computer right now, is the directors that they work with. And I'm not talking like big names or whatever. You've got people directing like James Franco, and then you've also got Jonah Hill is directing a film next year. Like, they're giving actors a chance to do this, I guess. It's very interesting.
I think it goes back to the marketing side of things that Daniel was talking about. They know that people with an established name will bring in a certain level of audience. So there's an appeal to that. We know in Australia that there are 3 releases for A24 in 2018, as we've discussed. Lady Bird. Also coming out is How to Talk to Girls at Parties, which Daniel and Chris have seen.
It's great. It's really lovely.
Also Lean on Pete,
which I'm very excited about. But again, no one else would take a gamble on a film like How to Talk to Girls at Parties. So, yeah, if our listeners have not gone and checked out the filmography of A24, we highly recommend you do so. You'll probably find you've seen a lot of them. And actually, a lot of those films are films we've championed here at Switch, including things like Moonlight and The Witch and Ex Machina. So yeah, A24, that's a name you need to recognize from now on. Go out, find them. To make it a bit easier, we'll also put up a list of all the A24 films up in our show notes as well.
Karen Gillan, who you might remember as Amy Pond from Doctor Who or Nebula in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is continuing her push for an all-female Marvel film. Not only is it a totally rad idea, there's nothing holding back the studios anymore who used to claim that female action films don't make money. Can anyone say Wonder Woman? Wonder Woman! Wonder Woman! Thank you guys for being literal as ever.
Were you asked?
Well, what do you think would make this film work? I say don't stop at the female cast and go for a female director and screenwriter too, and cinematographer. Who run the world?
Penises! But they're on the way out. Okay, can I just sort of be a little bit devil's advocate here? This is a woman who is pushing for her most famous role and her most profitable role to have more films being made. I mean, of course she's going to do it, regardless of whether it's all female or not. And yeah, I'm sorry, but I kind of had to say it.
Stop being a lady hater.
You're like, that's cynical, Jess. That's really cynical.
I know. And like, look, but it makes sense.
In the article, it says that she's like, yeah, I love working with all the other females in the universe, but we're never at the same set for very long. So if we were all doing the same film, we'd all get to hang out all the time and hold hands. It'd be great. I'm paraphrasing, but that's almost what it said.
I mean, that sounds like pretty much what Ocean's 8 is, but you know.
Oh my God, if there's a scene where they all hold hands in Ocean's 8, that would be excellent.
That's probably when they're singing Shania Twain, but yeah.
Oh my God, I would die.
I'd also like to point out that for the last 10 years, Marvel have been, on the front foot of this new superhero resurgence, and DC have been struggling to catch up, yet they're the ones that have their own female superhero film, and it went gangbusters, and then she also led the Justice League as well. So, Marvel, WTF?
I completely agree with you, and I think that may be one of the reasons why maybe Karen Gillan and the other women in the Marvel universe are able to have might have a bit more backing to be able to say that, because now Marvel don't have a reason. And it was Kevin Feige who did say that he didn't think that a female-led superhero film would make money, and now Wonder Woman's one of the most successful films of the year, critically and commercially, and Gal Gadot is the most successful female actor of the year. So I agree with you. I think Marvel need to pull up their pants and fix it up.
Then my next question is, what superhero are we going to see a standalone film for?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, who would you like to see? I'd love a Storm film. That'd be good.
The thing is, I think the reason that Karen Gillan is actually saying let's have just an all-female film is to kind of not discriminate against any one particular one. But I mean, there are so many good individual stories. I mean, I think people have been crying out for years for a Black Widow standalone film.
We have so many fucking origin films. I want to see her fucking origin film. Where did she come from? I want to see when she's a fucking spy. I want to see her kick ass.
That's her character, though. That's what I like about her character. You're not meant to.
I'd be more than happy not to see another origin film with her.
We just forget that Age of Ultron happened. Like, it's a mess.
What we need is an origin film for Supreme Leader Snoke.
That is not a woman, and that is not Marvel. And I'm sure someone is writing some fucking novel or video game to explain it somewhere.
But there are so many ladies. An X-Men movie that's all female could work.
Yeah, because that's true. Because some of the most interesting characters in the X-Men universe are actually women.
And you could probably explain away the men with some stupid plot of like, ooh, an alien's invaded and they've taken all the men.
Yeah.
Done.
So going back to what I said before with DC, look, I don't know if this is going to actually happen, but they do have a movie called, I think it's either Sirens of Gotham or Vixens of Gotham or whatever, and it's kind of like a Suicide Squad spin-off where it's an all-female villain film, which is going to be led by Harley Quinn, because obviously she and Margot Robbie proved to be so insanely popular with the terrible Suicide Squad.
Also, they just got rid of all the shitty men from Suicide Squad, focused on the characters we actually want to see.
Well, I mean, DC had to try something new, didn't they?
I'd like to see a film just about Viola Davis's character from Suicide Squad.
An origin story as to how she became such a
I'd just love to
bitch.
see her have her own solo film.
Surely she's going to have more of a role, yeah.
I'd like to see her get rid of all the men and make her own Suicide Squad with just the women. That'd be great. But I mean, also DC, Jess, you're completely right, DC is very far ahead also in the fact that, like Brent said, it would be great to then see women involved behind the scenes in these films. I mean, world saver Patty Jenkins has come in and, proved that women can direct major blockbusters, so there's no reason.
A lady will be directing Captain Marvel, but she'll have a man by her side helping her.
Yeah, that's
boo.
I mean, they're
they are a directing team, but still.
Yeah. It's being written by women, though. Captain Marvel has an entirely female team.
Well, look, if it's going to be anything like the other all-ladies film that we've spoken about, all I hope is that there's a scene where Shania Twain starts playing Man, I Feel Like a Woman, and they just walk out into the battle.
It's their war jam.
If it's Marvel, it's likely. They love their pop songs.
Best thing about being a woman.
We have some great giveaways up for grabs this week. First, we're giving away 10 double passes to see The Post in cinemas. Steven Spielberg tackles the cover-up of the US government's involvement in the Vietnam War. Meryl Streep plays Catherine Graham, the first female publisher of a major American newspaper, and Tom Hanks is Ben Bradley, as the two risk their careers and their freedom to help bring long-buried truths to light. It's Spielberg. Enough said.
We're also giving away a huge collection of awesome Aussie TV shows, including Blue Healers seasons 1 through 14. Yes, there's more. More Trouble in Mount Thomas. Water Rats, the complete collection. Plus Police Rescue, the complete collection. And one lucky winner will take home this massive prize pack. That is 197 DVDs that I made Charlie count, packed with homegrown Aussie goodness.
For the true Lisa McCune fan.
The things I do for you, Brent.
I know. The things you do for me to be able to read out a competition. To win this and all of our great prizes, head to maketheswitch.com.au/comps now.
Now, before we go, we'd like to offer you some cinematic inspiration, with each of us suggesting one film that you should see this week and why. For me, I'm going back to something that started off 2016 for me quite positively. It was a Coen Brothers film, Hail Caesar. This is a super quirky look inside of Hollywood in the 1950s. Honestly, the scenes with George Clooney just sitting around talking about communism with this bunch of Hollywood guys it's bizarre. Sitting there in a centurion outfit, or I'm not really 100% sure.
And then there's all this other outfit.
It's so ridiculous.
Daniel's got a couple at home.
You know it.
Those nights of role play.
Oh
But it also has some really great performance. It actually has a really good performance from Josh Brolin in it, who I guess is the lead character in this. It's a really weird film because you kind of follow around all these different groups of people, seeing what they're doing, but also has a freaking awesome musical number from Channing Tatum in it. And just like the closing scenes with him, with his dog, are just
the dog!
priceless.
I forgot about the dog!
So, yeah, it's a...
2 Tildas for the price of 1.
Yes.
There are. You can never have too much Swinton, really.
It's true. Look at Okja. Or Okja, whatever you pronounce it.
You definitely pronounce it Okja, yeah.
Okay, well look at that. There's 2 of her in that.
But yeah, it's such an offbeat, quirky comedy, so I recommend Hail Caesar. Jess, how are you going to kick off 2018?
Okay, so this week, inspired by my All the Money in the World review, I'm going to go with a good kidnapping film because I'm pretending that they exist. I'm going to 1997's Danny Boyle film, A Life Less Ordinary. It stars Cameron Diaz and Ewan McGregor, and Cameron Diaz is this bratty rich girl who gets kidnapped by the bumbling Ewan McGregor, and everything goes wrong, but the pair decide to team up and extort her father for all this money that they think that he owes them. And it also stars 2 angels, one being played by the sensational Holly Hunter, who are sent down to Earth to prove that love still exists. I know, it's very strange. It is a very wacky film, but it's heaps of fun. It's very romantic. It even has a musical number. It's not a musical, but it does have a musical number in it. And also you get to see Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz right at the beginning of their superstardom and careers, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, you can't go past A Life Less Ordinary.
Good choice, Jess. Now, Daniel, does yours also have a musical number in it?
No, it most certainly does.
Oh shit, the pressure's on.
Actually, there is a musical. There is a few quite great musical moments in it. No, you guys often bring up films that were kind of seminal films for you as teenagers. I'm going to bring up one that had a massive impact on me back in 2004 when I first saw it. I would have been about maybe 15, 16 years old, and that's Gus Van Sant's Elephant. His Palme d'Or winning film based on the Columbine Massacre. It's kind of a slice of life film about one day in an American high school, and you follow a whole bunch of teenagers. Not real time, but it feels like it could be in real time over the course of a day, and you see all these very disparate narrative threads until you're introduced to one, which is two boys who plan to go into their school and shoot their classmates and their teachers. I saw it twice in a week, I think, when I first saw it at the cinemas, because it had such a profound effect on me, and it is so beautifully made and so beautifully devastating and very disturbing. Yeah, I know most people that I knew at my age who saw it had absolutely loved it, and it made a huge impact on them. So Gus Van Sant's Elephant, great film, probably his best film, I think.
So uplifting.
I always suggest uplifting films, Brent. If you listen to the podcast, you might know that.
Remember the horny nuns, Brent? Remember the horny nuns?
Could we forget the horny nuns? Well, Brent, that's why we have you on the podcast, to really embrace the lowest common denominator. So what is your film recommendation for
I am the lowest common denominator. The film that I'm going to recommend this week is a fantastic sort of dystopian future film called Snowpiercer.
Oh,
I've been inspired by Tilda Swinton.
Very good. Very good. Great film.
Thank you.
That was out of left field.
Just to prove that I can enjoy quality and not quality cinema.
I don't remember Richard Roxburgh being in Snowpiercer.
Oh, he's in the very background. He actually plays Dracula in the third carriage.
Oh, okay. Carry on.
At that fancy party. So Snowpiercer is a dystopian future where the global warming or something has happened, and they're on a train that constantly circles the globe, and they're the only humans left. And there's class structure and
bugs
and Tilda Swinton and Captain America, whose name I've just forgotten. Chris Evans. Oh, Christ.
Wow.
Christ. Chris Evans.
You did actually watch this movie, didn't you?
I definitely watched this movie. I know exactly why they take the little kids away.
It's also directed by Bong Joon-ho, who directed The Host. He's one of South Korea's most successful and exciting directors.
And it's a successful and exciting film. So I recommend everybody go and see Snowpiercer.
Good pick, Brent. That's a great film. That is a really great film. Fucking banger of a film.
Right after you see Okja.
Yeah, look, watch. It'd be actually they'd run into each other, and then you'd be like, "How did Tilda get from there to the train?"
They're the same director, so that would make sense.
Oh, I would use Tilda Swinton in everything as well.
You are going to love her in Suspiria, where she's going to play a ballet school like madam/witch. You're going to love her.
Yes. She could literally play a lamp standing in the corner of a room, and I'd be transfixed.
I watched.
I think she'd be illuminating in that role.
Oh, Jesus!
Jess, look to your left. That's not your bookcase. It's just Tilda Swinton getting into character. She's so deep in her role there.
In A Bigger Splash, Luca Guadagnino's film Before Call Me By Your Name, she plays a rock star that can't speak because she's got laryngitis, and she's fucking delightful.
Yeah.
Let's have a Tilda Swinton special episode. We just talk about how much we love Tilda.
We do need to talk about Tilda a lot.
All hail Tilda.
Yes.
The most throwing role of Tilda's for me, it was from Trainwreck.
Yeah, she was awesome in Trainwreck.
Trainwreck.
Yeah. She plays Amy Schumer's boss.
Google her. She plays Amy Schumer's boss, but she has regular hair and a tan. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, who the fuck is that? And it's Tilda Swinton.
Oscar winner Tilda Swinton.
She's behind you.
Oscar winner Tilda Swinton. My favorite Tilda Swinton appearance is in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt when she's painting the back of Mikey's truck as his mask woman. He's like the woman he paints on the back of the truck to show how mask is. I just
rewatched that episode.
Tilda.
Yeah. Oh.
Fuck! It's gay culture is Tilda on the back of your ute.
No, because Tilda Swinton is your you. She's just really in character.
Thank you for listening to TildaCast.
We love you, Tilda. It's all said from a place of love. if you ever
We do.
listen.
We love Tilda.
Oh, some fantastic suggestions,
Tilda.
even the ones that didn't feature Tilda Swinton.
Of which there were 2. Like, of the 4, 2 featured Tilda Swinton.
50% Tilda rate is quite good. So,
2 films, 3 Tilda Swinton performances.
Twice the Tilda.
well, that's actually 3 times the Tilda, because I had 2 Tildas.
That's right.
Yeah, 2
That's
films, 3
good
Tilda
value for
Swintons.
your money.
Very good value.
2 Tildas, 1 podcast.
As of tomorrow, you'll find that Switch does no longer exist. It is now a Tilda
Literally
Swinton
just a
appreciation
Tilda Swinton.
website with a page devoted, the side page devoted to Jackie.
You just go to the homepage and it's just Tilda Swinton's face on there. That's all it is.
You go to the homepage and what? It's just Tilda Swinton in character. Your computer is Tilda Swinton. Oh my god. She pulls off a pair of glasses. Fooled you again.
We could have kept this podcast under an hour, but all of a sudden, no, it's not.
We were going so well, and then we started talking about A24, and then we started talking about females, and then we started talking about Tilda Swinton.
Each led logically to one another, I think.
Oh, that's it. We've made it. An A24 film that's an action hero that is played by Tilda Swinton. And you've got yourself every award ever.
Every actor is Tilda Swinton.
It's
Tilda Swinton robs Tilda Swinton at the Met Gala. The Met Gala played by Tilda Swinton.
You thought you were at the Met Gala. Fooled you again. It's me, Tilda. Ah, this red carpet's really squishy. Tilda! No. It's got to be an Eddie Murphy style Clumps movie where Tilda
Written by
Swinton
Tilda
is
Swinton,
every
directed by
character.
Tilda Swinton, score by Tilda Swinton.
Oh my god, like Tommy Wiseau in The Room. Should remake The Room.
The Room, starring Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton is Tommy Wiseau.
She could have.
And the Academy Award for Best Female in a Motion Picture goes to Tilda Swinton. Tilda, are you there? Are you there? I've been the award the whole time. Oh my god, she's so good. Give her another one.
If only she were on social media, she would hear all this and understand our deep and meaningful love of her.
A deep-seated love.
And she would get a restraining order.
No, I actually think she'd get Brent to write her films from now on because he's coming up with some goals.
Happily. Oh my god. Here's my card. Brent Davidson, Tilda Swinton's personal writer. By the way, that's not really a card. I've just given you Tilda Swinton. Fooled you again.
No matter how many times you make this joke, Brent, for some reason, it's still funny. That's the real miracle. That's the first miracle of 2018.
So true. Well, you can find the links to all the articles we've talked about on this week's podcast at maketheswitch.com.au. Please subscribe to SWITCHCast on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. I promise we don't talk this much about Tilda Swinton every week. And don't forget to rate us and stay in touch on Twitter. I'm at Charlie_David. Jess.
At Miss Jess _Switch.
Daniel.
At Daniel Lamon.
And Brent.
At Brent C. Davidson. That's the letter and not the body of water.
Typical.
But is it a body of water or is it Tilda Swinton? You'll never know.
Brent
one way
isn't
to find
actually
out.
Brent on his Twitter account. He's actually just Tilda Swinton.
Like it, follow it. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at MakeTheSwitchAU to stay up to date with all the latest news, reviews, trailers, and giveaways.
And you can find notes and links to everything we've discussed on this week's podcast, as well as other episodes by visiting switchcast.com.au.
On next week's show, Gary Oldman brings Winston Churchill to life in Darkest Hour. But how does it stack up against other biopics on the larger-than-life figure? Or is it actually just Tilda Swinton? I'll reveal next week.
I would pay to see Tilda Swinton play Winston Churchill.
So would a lot of people.
Plus, we'll have our review of Steven Spielberg's much-anticipated The Post. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you all next week.